Welcome to What the Fantasy, and I am Brandon Hay at HeyB3.
What's up, guys? I'm Zareh at ZCantsFF. Hey, can I share something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Check out what I got in the mail today. Avengers 42.
Oh,
Isn't that sweet?
nice. That is.
It's stupid glare, but I got that for $10, dude, in the mail.
That's it?
Yeah,
That is
$10.
awesome.
I put a bid in. The minimum bid was $10, and I got it. It's my oldest collection of Avengers. I should do like one comic book show and tell every episode. I have a whole bunch of them in the closet back there.
I really hope you definitely should do that.
I should pull one out every once in a while.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Let's do that moving forward. And not to toot my own horn, but I think I did a really good job on the. I didn't know if you really watched the preview video or got to see it, but
I did.
I was very proud of myself doing that today. So
yeah.
But anyway, we're back again. We made it through another week, and actually, we just decided to kind of start off the show with this because it looks like Mark Ingram is going back to the Saints. So from the Texans. So first of all, that's interesting for the Saints because you can tell that even though Alvin Kamara had a great game this week, they want someone to have that, early down work. But since Tony Jones has been hurt, they really haven't had that. So Ingram should fit in for that. But we were talking before the show for the Texans. So who do you think is the better pickup for the Texans, David Johnson or Philip Lindsay? Or do you think it's going to be kind of a split?
I think it's David Johnson, and it's not really that close because Philip Lindsay hasn't seen above 20% snap share since week 2. He's been seeing anywhere between like 17, 8%. Like he's been seeing super low snap shares. So, I mean, it'll rise, but I think it'll be David Johnson closer to like a nice RB2, especially with Tyrod Taylor coming back maybe this week or next week. I think the offense can get some legs under them. I know Tyrod Taylor, they performed really well with Tyrod Taylor week 1. And week 2, they almost beat the Browns before he injured his quad or his hamstring, whichever one it was. But I think with David Johnson there, I think Tyrod Taylor would fare better. I think he's a nice pickup right now. And I don't even think that most people are even looking at David Johnson right now as a solid pickup. He's probably just available on your waiver wire. So if he's there, go grab him, wait for something to happen. You'll have a mid-season RB2 of a proven running back who can like be solid, get you a few receptions every once in a while. I mean, what do you think about his snap percentage? I'm thinking anywhere between 50 and 60% probably.
Yeah, I would think so. But before I get into that, what I don't understand is why are they playing Tyrod now? Like, what's the point?
I think it's just a good coaching decision. I mean, you can't just have. It's hard to tell a player that you're not allowed to play anymore because we're tanking. I mean, outside of what the Eagles did last year when they pulled Jalen Hurts from the game just so they could tank and get a high pick. I don't think it's a common thing. As much as a team wants to tank, I don't think it's a common thing to see teams intentionally try to tank. I think it's just a bad look. I think Tyrod Taylor deserves a shot. I think the coaching staff appreciates him enough to where they would give him a shot. He was playing well. It's just not a nice thing to do to somebody. I just think it's rude.
I agree. It's rude. My only thinking is I don't understand why they picked Davis Mills then, because I mean, in all likelihood, they're going to pick a quarterback next draft. So it's kind of like I just thought. I guess the injury to Tyrod kind of ruined that a little bit, pushed Mills in sooner than they wanted. But I think at this point, I don't know. I would just roll with him because you see them. They're probably going. I'm surprised they got rid of Mark Ingram and then haven't gotten rid of Brandon Cooks because I think they could get more back for Cooks. And I mean, but again, like you're saying, that would officially say they're tanking, which we all know they're kind of doing that anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows why players pick people like? Why did they choose David Mills? Why did the Rams pick Tutu Atwell with their first pick? Why did Shanahan trade up for a guy and they haven't even given first team reps at the preseason? And why are they treating Brandon Ayuk the way they are? Why are they treating Trey Sermon the way they are? Why? Why they just blow it sometimes? I think Davis Mills was just there. He was probably just a value. And God, dude, I think the Houston Texans are one of the least bit surprising teams that have the poorest talent evaluators out there. So, they make horrible decisions. They trade, DeAndre Hopkins in a way. God, dude, they just make horrible decisions. And I think it's a good boost to have Tyrod Taylor come in, have some morale change in there, give the guys on both sides of the ball a reason to play, And Davis Mills is just not really, he's probably learning a few things here and there, but he's just not really getting it done. Tyrod Taylor can really put some legs under that offense. So I don't know. I think he'll start.
No, I tend to agree, and it's going to help for Brandon Cooks. I've actually been trying to acquire Cooks a little bit because if Tyrod's coming back, I think he could have a little bit of resurgence the rest of the year because he really isn't getting the targets. Even though they're losing by like 30, it's just I don't know why he's not getting the ball more. I would just throw it to him. He's obviously the only offensive player really on the team. But, yeah, I think that's a good call on David Johnson because you would imagine – I just could not believe the amount of carries they were giving Mark Ingram throughout the year. It just did not make sense to me. He was getting 15 and 16 carries a game, even when they were losing by 30. It just made no sense to me.
They were completely delusional.
I think that's a good. Yeah, I think that's a good way to segue away from the Houston Texans. So now we'll talk a little bit about. I wanted to. I put this on the sheet about trades in Dynasty and kind of looking at that into that strategy, which worked out well because I saw. I don't know if the tweet was today, but where you're talking about how you hate when people say to sell high on players.
Yeah. I was specifically referring to players who have really high draft pedigree, and then those players come out, and the people are like, "Oh, regression or progression or memession or decession or profession." It's always, dude. It's always like it's just never good enough, dude. It's just like never good enough for some people. Jamar Chase. I saw people having a discussion last night on a show I really do adore. And they were saying, is it time? He's had less. He already has less, like 5 less targets than Justin Jefferson did this time last year. He's probably gonna regress, obviously, dude. But what are you gonna sell? If you're gonna, dude, like, if you fine, sell him for 3 first-round picks. Like, what are you gonna get with those 3? Go ahead. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, just stop. Just enjoy watching football. Enjoy having really good people on your team that make the game pretty, that are aesthetically pleasing. Just enjoy the game. Stop being so like empirical about it and just rigid, and just stop selling value. This, that. Like, dude, this is me. Like, I love to watch football. I like Dynasty. I'm not the best Dynasty player specifically for this reason. Like, I got a guy telling me, I'll give you Mike Gesicki and like 2 first-round picks for Kyle Pitts. I'm like, no, dude, never. I'm not going to trade him. Like, that's fine. That's kind of a good trade. But, like, I'm not going to do that because Kyle Pitts is doing something insane. And to have that pleasure of knowing that's for your fantasy team, that production of watching this guy line up wide for God knows how many the next years, how many more years he's going to do this for. Like, and then maybe seeing him transition to a more traditional role in line as he gets older, but still be a baller. Like, this is more about the part about just naturally enjoying football than it is about like acquiring picks and who knows where those picks are going to end up. It's more about that. I get tired of it. I get tired of hearing all the time. Anytime somebody does anything good, sell them. Like, stop. Just enjoy the goddamn game.
Well, you pretty much took up all the bullet points that I put on the sheet with just your little top there. But yeah, I agree a lot. I think the original thought behind the sell high was not if a player plays well, because Jamar Chase is a rookie. Like, so you could have him for, if that dynasty league stays, you could have him for 5 to 10 years, be like a top 10 wide receiver. So why would you sell that for something that you don't know ahead of time? It's more sell high if, it's like a middle level player, like that has like a couple of good games and you just know he can come nowhere near that. Just like with Kyle Pitts, we see just what he's scratching the surface. I mean, he's going to be, as long as they don't totally change into wide receiver and he keeps that tight end designation, he's going to be an advantage for you for years. And another part is kind of about current value of players, because I see people always talking about, well, you get these first round picks for this and everything like that. But I think some people that play fantasy football, NFL wise, don't watch that much college football until you look at highlights getting ready for the draft. So they don't know if, this class is going to be good. Next year's class is going to be good. Just because you have first round picks doesn't necessarily mean, say you have the first pick in next year's draft. It's not, as of right now, it's not supposed to be as good as last year's draft. So the value changes year to year. So I think people, hey, I've done this. I did a startup last year where I pretty much sold out of the startup draft, got all these rookie picks, and I'm still horrible because it's still hard to pick, rookie players, because I thought Henry Ruggs was going to be really good, which he's getting better. I thought Denzel Mims was going to do a lot. I thought Brandon Ayuk, he did it last year, but now Shanahan is, I don't know what Shanahan's doing with him. So that's part of the reason, in talking about value of good players. So before the season, me included, we're trying to get rid of Derrick Henry and Adam Thielen, but they are still performing. So there's the other thing about getting rid of someone way too early.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what happened with Derrick Henry is that people didn't take into account that he wasn't used heavily in his first few years under Matt LaFleur. So I think we all completely overlooked that and just saw heavy usage. And just, I think this is the part where we fail as fans and analysts or whatever, is where we rely way too heavily on the empirical data and the historical data. And anytime there's any kind of chance of an outlier season happening, like in Kyle Pitts, we had a lot of people saying, how's this guy going to do it? He's an outlier. There's no way this guy's going to perform. I think Devontae Smith is in the same conversation, and I'm not going to put Devontae Smith there too. I think Devontae Smith and everybody in that offense is suffering as a result of Nick Sirianni's poor job as a head coach. But regardless, I think it's just good to just have some guys. I don't know, man. Like if you have Jamar Chase and your team is just completely in shambles outside of Jamar Chase, I think it's probably then it would be a good idea to still have Jamar Chase in order to take some draft capital. But like you said, if you sell Jamar Chase and you have a solid team, you don't know what picks you're going to get. And this kind of goes into my Devy League draft should be drafted like not in the summer, but between the combine. And you made a good point. You said, well, this is a good test for evaluators, for talent about your skill set, your subjective skill set as a talent evaluator. How good are you as a talent evaluator? And I am not, and I think for most people who do Devy leagues, you got to be really in tune with college football, or else you're going to suck at the drafts. Even if you look at the best fantasy websites, if you look at their boards for Devy leagues, most time, I think more often than not, those draft boards are going to be wrong, like 60 to 70 to 80%. Like they're going to be wrong. Like what's his name? Spencer Rattler was number 1 off the boards this year. What's going to happen to this kid now? Spencer Rattler, for all the people that took Spencer Rattler number 1.
That is by far one of the most extreme cases I've seen. And I was actually talking to a couple people today because they were talking about maybe starting a Devy league. And I said, it's a great start off, but I did tell them too, as it's not for everyone, and that's fine. Some people like PPR, some people like redraft, all that stuff. But yeah, part of the thing with Devy also is for those that do rankings, you don't know. You're making an educated guess, but think about that. You're making guesses on sometimes high school seniors. They're coming into college and you think they're going to be good, but you don't really know because some people want to go in early on quarterbacks and so on and so forth. And like another example is DJU. After last year, I'm sure he went pretty high on Devy drafts, before this season, and he looks in shambles too, even worse than Spencer Rattler. So that was another good point, and I'm glad you let me talk a little Devy on the on the pod. So maybe we can incorporate that a little bit. I just want to close up the Dynasty talk and I struggle with this. I don't know how you feel about your strengths in this, is when to know to kind of call it a season and try to rebuild for the next year, or continue and say, hey, if I sneak in the playoffs, maybe my team gets hot. Usually they won't. but I have the worst time, when you're on the edge, say you're like 3-4 right now, you're like a couple games out of the playoffs, and you think, I can keep on plugging along and something's going to happen, when in reality, if you get out earlier, you might get some better value than you would if you wait. So I know I always struggle with that.
This is why I'm such a bad Devy player, because I'll never stop. Like, I will never stop working the waiver wire. I will never stop making moves. I will make it a point, even though I'm out of the playoffs, I will make it a point to ruin whoever else's chances to get in the playoffs. If somebody's a contender, I would play. I take just as much pleasure as playing spoiler than I do playing like contending for the playoffs. Because I don't like losing. I think there's no such thing as, I am always working the waiver wire. I'm even playing, I'm even making bets after we miss the playoffs. If I miss the playoffs, I'm making bets with other teams because the fantasy season still goes on. So if I'm playing against that team and it means absolutely nothing, we're still making like money bets on the side. Like I still want to play all the time. So I'll never stop trying to win. Like, I'll never start losing because I want a higher pick. Like, especially in dynasty leagues, there's always value that falls. Like, we're wrong all the time on so many players every year. So there's always value that falls. So you can still have a back end first round pick and be fine, because I mean, most of those, most dynasty leagues, right? Like most dynasty, again, I'm not well versed in dynasty drafts. I've only done a couple, but most dynasty drafts, don't they take place after the NFL draft or before the NFL draft?
It depends, but I think most of them happen after the NFL draft.
After the NFL draft, yeah, okay. So but there's still I think there's still a lot of value that falls regardless, man. Like, there's still a lot of good pieces you can get. You shouldn't bet on that. The first round pick is always going to be pretty rock solid, and it's rarely going to bust. But I mean, a lot of them do sometimes. There's a lot of whoever drafted Mitch Trubisky, that
Yeah.
1 year he got drafted. It happens. It happens more often than not. So I'm more of a proponent of playing till the end of the year and dealing with whatever I have to deal with when the draft comes along.
No, I agree. And yeah, that's the hardest thing for me too, because I always want to bet on myself and think, hey, if there's like 3 games left and, I still have a chance if I win all 3 and someone else has to lose all 3, even though the odds are not in my favor, I'm still going to push for that. And I think that's just the competitive nature. But I've seen some people in dynasty leagues start tanking like after week 4. And I just don't understand how people do that. Like, they might start out 0-4, and I'm like,
yeah,
man, there's so much left of the season and you're already tanking. So yeah, I mean, that's just my feeling on the dynasty strategy. There's so many different ways to do it, but I think one thing that we've gone too far in, maybe partially because of Devy, is we want those rookie picks because we want, we get enticed by those new players, and we want to be able to make that judgment. Like, I knew this player was going to be good, and sometimes we need to just take the value that's there. And I know sometimes I felt that because I've been trying to get rid of Adam Thielen and Derrick Henry before the season, and they both are doing very well this season. So, Dynasty is just a kind of a crazy animal that, I played a few years and I still struggle with parts of that. So, So now we'll go on to kind of another segment I thought of this week is teams that seem like they're a QB away and what we think they're going to do in their future. So let me actually, there we go. So we have the quarterbacks up there. First on the list is the Carolina Panthers. They're 3-4. They've lost, I believe they started out 3-0 and have lost 4, maybe. And Sam Darnold started out well in the season, and he's kind of fallen back to what he is, inconsistent and turnover prone. I mean, he's completing around 61%, almost 1,700 yards, but 7 touchdowns, 8 picks. His adjusted yards per attempt is 5.9, rating 77.5, and his QBR is 41. So there's been rumors that they are going to get into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. So what's your thoughts on the Panthers moving forward in that QB position? Because I know CMC has been out, but it seems like, Hubbard has been playing well enough, and they have those weapons on offense, and the defense has been pretty good, even with some injuries. So it looks like if Darnold was even just a little above average, they wouldn't be at this 3-4 record.
I don't think it's a bad idea to stay. You stick with Darnold. I think next year we're going to see some nice quarterbacks come into light. I think we're going to see Russell Wilson become available. I think we're going to see Jalen Hurts become available. Who knows what's going to happen with Tua? He could probably become available. Rodgers is going to become available. I think a lot of these teams who are going to need quarterbacks are not going to really look to next year's draft class, because you tell me, as a Devy analyst, I hear next year's QB crop isn't that strong. Is that true? Or, I mean,
as of now, it is not. It is not. It's kind of a jumble of a little bit. Most people say Matt Corral out of Ole Miss because he's played well, but there's still a lot of questions with him. A lot of people are big on Malik Willis with his, ability, but there's questions with him. He's had a couple bad games against subpar competition, and as you said, Rattler, who everyone thought would be near the top, isn't playing well. Sam Howell at North Carolina hasn't. But so you're correct. The quarterback crop isn't as good. So yeah, a lot of these teams might look to. There's a lot of interchanging quarterbacks. I've kind of heard some rumblings about possibly Kirk Cousins maybe being on the move too. So there could be a lot of movement with quarterbacks. So that definitely could be very interesting with that. So we see with Darnold, the stats kind of show that he's definitely regressed and doing, playing worse. But then there's the Broncos that are 3-4. They got Teddy Bridgewater. His stats actually don't look bad. He's 70% completion, 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns to 5 picks. His rating's 99.5, QBR is 50.9. But I think we've talked about this on the show. If you watch a full game of Teddy Bridgewater, you'll see why they need to move on. The stats might be okay by the end of the day, but if the way that he has to get there, it's just rough to watch sometimes.
It's rough to watch, but if it's serviceable, it's serviceable. And Teddy Bridgewater, he takes pretty good care of the ball. And I think he again, like I said, like we said when we spoke about this prior a few episodes ago, that he complements the defense really well and what that team wants to do. I think the defense is the core of that team, and Bridgewater is there to take care of the ball, not make horrible decisions, play the intermediate passes down the field, nothing too crazy, not deep shots. They want to play it they want to play the run game. I really think actually the weakness in the Broncos is Vic Fangio and that whole coaching staff. I think they need to be taken out. We need better decisions over there with the Broncos. I think Bridgewater, I think he could stay another year and it could work out. Again, like he put the Broncos in a place. He helped put the Broncos in a place to where they're not last. They could finish above the Chiefs. They could finish above the Raiders. Let Bridgewater heal a little bit more. I think we still have more. I have faith in Bridgewater. I didn't have faith in Darnold. When he was doing good in the beginning of the year, I was saying, no, he's still showing some old tendencies. He's still showing that kind of like that obliviousness where he was holding on to the ball too long in the pocket and not really quick to make a decision. He just had that like lost look in his eyes. With Bridgewater, I still have I'm much more confident and solid on Bridgewater as a quarterback for the next year at least. Especially when we're looking at the guys on the board, Roethlisberger, Heineke, and Darnold. I feel much better about Bridgewater as my quarterback than I would about any of those guys. But again, we're going to have a lot of guys come up that are really great quarterbacks. They're going to come into free agency probably. So, it's not past. I wouldn't put it past the Broncos to move on from Bridgewater.
No, and I agree with you about Fangio. I think the only coach that's been worse in game, like with situations, is Anthony Lynn with the Chargers, just because you saw how many close games they lost. Like the Browns game, they came back in the second half and they were down, I believe 10, and they went on like an 18-play drive, took so much time off the clock, left so little room for error. When I was like, just run a little no huddle. Bridgewater can do that, and I think just the way they want to play, way Fangio wants to play is the defense, the running the ball, but they've had a lot of injuries on defense. So when you play that way, there's so little room for error. So if your defense isn't, like a top 8 defense, then the passing game has to be much more advanced than I think they want to do. And obviously, we were talking about Jerry Jeudy before the show. He's been out. Hopefully, with him coming back in, gives him another weapon, and maybe they can get it going. I agree. Bridgewater is probably one of the better options on this list. So we'll move on to the Washington football team. Big disappointment, just as a team. Obviously, Heineke wasn't supposed to start, but even with Fitzpatrick, I don't think it would be very different because that defense has regressed. They haven't played very well. They're not getting the ball to Antonio Gibson and running the ball. They're getting behind very quickly. Heineke, not horrible numbers, 64%, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I was surprised they didn't at least try to bring someone younger in this year, maybe a rookie or something, so they had something for the future. So now, I don't really know what they're going to do with the quarterback position. What do you think about them right now?
Yeah, I wrote it. I put out a tweet earlier in the year. I said, "Hot take: Taylor Heineke is going to cost the Washington football team more games than he is going to win them. His mental miscues and moments of panic are aspects of him which I don't bet on improving to a significant degree." And I put that out after they won that big game against the New York Giants, and I wasn't buying it because I saw, over time what he likes to do. He panics a lot. He's kind of like your high school prom queen. Throw it up and throw it up for a prayer, and hopefully somebody comes down with it. He's constantly throwing the ball way too high for his receivers. He's putting them in harm's way all the time. He's gonna get Terry McLaurin killed if he keeps doing that. And I just don't think he's got some traits that I like. He plays with a lot of emotion, a lot of gumption, but he's got a lot to work on. So I think he's gonna. If he works on I don't think he'll be a starter next year, but if he works on those things, he'll be one of the best backups in the league.
No, I agree. And I don't think the coaching staff, albeit, either scheme or just players not playing well, have really helped him either, because this isn't really what they want to do. They want to be like what the Broncos want to be, play defense, run the ball, and, play action and everything. But they just haven't been able to do that. And it's kind of getting to a point where I don't know if they're going to be able to right the ship. And I don't know when Ryan Fitzpatrick can even come back. Or if he will this season. So it's very interesting with them. There was rumors about a 3-way deal where Tua might go there, which I would have really liked for Tua and for Washington. But it doesn't look like, at least this year, that's going to happen. And the last team, it's kind of iffy, a little more iffy for me on the Steelers, because their offensive line is still very bad. But Big Ben is holding that offense back. He just can't get the ball down the field consistently. Another reason that I really like Najee, but I just wonder when they get a quarterback and throw it further down the field, is he going to get all these receptions and these targets? So that'll be interesting going forward. Do you think that a better quarterback would help their offensive line, or do you think they need to improve the offensive line along with the quarterback to really get where they want?
Send Jalen Hurts to the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, dude. Right now. If you're gonna have a bad offensive line, that's fine for Jalen Hurts. He's fine outside of the pocket. He's been super accurate outside of the pocket. He's delivered the ball in so many great clutch situations outside of the pocket. I think that's what Nick Sirianni is failing to do. He's not sending him out on any naked bootleg kind of passes. He's just having him sit in the pocket and being devoured by pass rush, and the edge of the offensive line is completely susceptible right now. Send him. You can run the most beautiful RPO with Najee Harris and the receivers there and Pat Freiermuth. Send him there. Steelers, go get Jalen Hurts. If he's gonna be a great franchise quarterback for you. He's being completely shit on, and Nick Sirianni, dude, is driving me absolutely crazy, dude. I'm so tired of hearing about Minshew. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. Stop it, dude. Stop it. That's where I think they should go. I don't think they should get Rodgers. I don't think he's gonna get pissed off because the offensive line is not gonna be better by the time he gets there. I don't think they should get Tua. I think he'll be killed. They should get Jalen Hurts. He's perfect for that system. I think the offensive coordinator can do wonders with him. Jalen Hurts. Send him to the Steelers.
I hadn't even really considered that, but that makes sense because I think Jalen Hurts also, as you can see, I think why he's done so well with Quez Watkins is because Quez Watkins has shown the ability this year to go up and make great contested catches. And think about Chase Claypool. He's even more physical and able to get the ball. So yeah, that's a great call. And I just wonder if Sirianni is going to make it another year because I don't know if you heard his press conference today. He was talking more nonsense about plants and all this stuff. And
what?
Yeah, he was trying. What I think the analogy he was trying to make was they're trying to grow something there, so you got to be patient. But it was a pretty ridiculous way for him to go about trying to make analogies in the press conference.
It's an 18-week season. This isn't baseball, dude. What do you mean patient? You have an off season to install. The off season is where you install, dude. What are you talking about patience? I don't want to swear on this podcast, so let's change the subject.
Okay, we will definitely. We'll get to some more fun type things. So we have Halloween this weekend, so we're going to do some Halloween topics. First, we're going to talk about our top 3 Halloween costumes we have ever worn. I'm guessing most of these would be in childhood, but it sounds like one might not be for you. So I'll start. Number 3 for me was Darkwing Duck when I was younger. I talked the time I did the solo pod about favorite cartoons, and Darkwing Duck is very high up there. It's kind of funny. A lot of my favorite cartoons have to deal with ducks, and I've talked about in this pod how I'm very afraid of birds, but I guess cartoon ducks are fine. So number 3 for me is Darkwing Duck.
Number 3 for me is this is actually I misread the topic. I thought it was your 3 favorite costumes you generally like to wear, but I mean I haven't worn this one yet. I wanted to be Rick from Rick and Morty. I haven't done that one yet.
Okay.
I think he's just super funny. I'm tall and skinny, and I think I could pull it off really easy. Get a wig and kind of shake and do the starfish thing that's going on. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah,
I think you definitely could pull that off. So
yeah.
So I guess we'll have 2 different kind of costume top 3s. So so my second was being Michelangelo, a teenage mutant ninja turtle when I was younger. I had all the toys and everything. Even got the fake little kind of shell thing to wear and the bandana around your head. So I loved that cartoon. I think all kids, all boys did. So that was number 2 for me.
Yeah, number 2 is Freddie Mercury for me, just because the dude's a badass, and I think his costume would be so awesome, just like a tank top and white jeans and whatever, some Velcro strap-ons or whatever he wore for his shoes, and I can grow a mean mustache. So I think that would help out in the process too. I think the costume is really sick, and it's super awesome for a dude to fucking rock out as Freddie Mercury if you could pull it off.
Definitely. So both of those costumes, I want you to dress up for the pod one time, or at least some sort of pictures about that. I think that would be fun. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So number 1 for me was Aladdin when I was younger. One of my favorite Disney movies. My mom was big into making my costumes, so she made an Aladdin costume for me. I think she might have it at my parents' house. So I might have to. I probably can't fit in the costume anymore, but at least wear the hat or something if I can find it. So that was number 1 for me, Halloween costume wise.
That's funny. I want to see that one. You guys showed me a picture of that. Do you have pictures of that?
I'm sure my mom does. I'm gonna have to get a lot of these childhood stories I tell. I'm gonna have to get some pictures to show on the pod.
Okay. For the one I have worn is just a ninja. When I was a kid, I was a ninja for I think 8 Halloweens in a row. So ninja is my number 1 because ninjas are awesome. Who doesn't love a ninja?
That's a great call because it's a fairly simple costume, but it's still cool no matter how old you are to dress up like a ninja. Because who doesn't want a ninja? Some ninja stars, a nunchuck.
Yeah, nunchucks for sure. The nunchucks.
Yeah, and then lastly, for the Halloween, just favorite Halloween candy. Mine is a Milky Way. What is yours?
Reese's Pieces.
That's what my wife
Reese's.
said. What said hers would be.
It's Reese's Pieces. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, it was hard for me to come up with just one, but
okay, I'll stop. Go.
I was wondering how long you could keep up that whole.
It's Reese's Pieces, man. It's so good. I'm sorry, that's just too weird. I'm sorry, that's too weird. Okay, move on.
Definitely keeping that audio in for the regular audio podcast for anyone that listens to that. So we'll just end with what we've kind of done a couple times. A fantasy frustration, fantasy miracle. Fantasy frustration for me was I was down 6 and had Josh Myers for the Seahawks. You'd think he would be able to do that, but he, missed a couple of easy kicks, and that offense just turned horrible after that long pass to DK Metcalf. So that was my frustration for the week. It looks like you had a lot of frustration.
All my fantasy teams lost in week 7, Brandon. Week 7 was so stupid. Week 7 was the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. It's so bad, dude. And in one league, I was looking pretty good, and then Nick Chubb had his thing, and then Darren Waller hurts his ankle, and then Antonio Brown hurts his ankle, and my team is absolutely decimated. And I didn't start Khalil Herbert because he's going against the Bucks, and I started AJ Dillon, and he got me negative points. And I started Robbie Anderson, and I felt really good about it. But Sam Darnold is a complete garbage piece of human, garbage quarterback, garbage jerk. Don't like him. Ruined my fantasy team. Alex Collins didn't do diddly squat. Had him in my flex. Just an awful week. Week 7 was so stupid. So dumb. The whole week was a frustration.
I agree. I did have one miracle in one of my home leagues. I was up 27, and they had Geno Smith, which I felt pretty good about before the game. I wasn't watching the beginning of the game, and then I just hear he threw a touchdown to DK Metcalf. I'm like, all right, that's okay. And then I look, and it's like a damn 84-yard touchdown. So he gets 15. He ends up with 15 points right off the bat, with 3 more quarters. I'm like, there's no way. And then we saw why Geno is who he is. After that where he came in for Russell Wilson that one game, they're like, oh, well, Geno is it was because of the Jets. No, Geno's not good. He's not a
he's
good
so
quarterback. That offensive display was horrible, and still they had a chance to win, which is unbelievable. But yeah, that was really the only miracle, just because Geno Smith is horrible.
I did have one fantasy miracle, but obviously it didn't happen to my fantasy team. It happened in my league where the guy that was going to go up one win and, get further, run off from us. And you're always hoping for that other team to beat them so they can keep him down with the rest of the pack. So this guy had a 30-something point lead on the other team, and the other guy had Alvin Kamara and DK Metcalf. And I know you're watching. I won't name his name, but dude, I know you're watching right now because he listens to the show all the time. And I was rooting for Kamara and DK the entire time. And I was like, when DK Metcalf, man, that was so. Where are you going, man? You're not going anywhere. You're down here with the 4 and 3s. You're with the 4 and 3s. Get back to that. You're not going to 5 and 2, man. Get back here. Oh man! As soon as I saw DK Metcalf make that, and I saw Alvin Kamara just getting those dump offs, so I was like, he's going 4-3. He's staying with us. We're keeping this thing nice and tight. So that was my miracle. It was almost better than me winning.
That's another part of fantasy football that makes it so great. Even if you're losing, since you're competing against other teams, you can root against them, and it may. That's why I love fantasy football, especially for the NFL, because it makes me watch games that I would otherwise don't care about at all. That Saints Seahawks game, I was like, I don't really care, but I'm still gonna watch it because we're just degenerates that just have to find a way to watch a game for a fantasy game.
I got an idea going forward. We should bring on at least once. We should bring on one person from each of our fantasy leagues, so they can just talk about whatever they want to talk about, just for whatever as a guest, or something like that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're going to start that up. So that is a great idea. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's all for the show this week. So again, I'm Brandon Hay at HeyB3.
And I'm Zareh Cantabedi and ZCantsFF. Reese's Pieces are so good. So good.
On that creepy ending, have a good Halloween, everyone.